dear University President Father Leahy, Chairman of the Board of Trustees Fish, His Eminence Cardinal O'Malley, members of the Board of Trustees, Boards of Regents, honored guests, parents, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, the most important people on the stadium today, the class of 2023. Good morning to you. What a pleasure and honor. What a pleasure and honor to be your commencement speaker and to have a big responsibility to share with you something that I hope you might find useful and maybe even interesting or cool as you finish this part of your life and enter into the next stage. It is you who will be shaping our world and taking your university motto, ever to excel, to everything you will do in life. And you will need all the knowledge, all the faith, all the courage, all the energy, and all the strength to be able to do it. What is it that gives us strength? As the ambassador of Ukraine, I hear that question every day. Ukraine is in the news every day. The devastating missile attacks, the fighting, the atrocities, the destruction in the residential areas, the miserable life of millions of Ukrainians under Russian occupation. So people ask me, how do your people do it? How does your president do it? What gives you strength? Where do you find strength? When Russian missiles hit Ukrainian cities and the Russian infantry walked into Ukrainian countryside in the early morning of February 24, 2022, many experts have given us 3 days. How could Ukraine counter what was believed to be the second largest army in the world? Yet today, 453rd day, and Ukraine is still standing, and we're still fighting. And thank you. And we have citizens and countless towns and villages in the south. Our armed forces has taken a heroic stand in the city of Bakhmut and for 9 months repelled one attack after another. What is it that gives us strength? This actually was a title of a poem penned by Ukrainian poetess, Lesia Ukrainka, a very prominent Ukrainian woman, more than a century ago. It was called What Gives Us Strength. She was born in 1871, just 7 years after this wonderful school opened its doors to students. She lived in Russian Empire, which ruled Ukraine then. Essentially, we were a Russian colony at that time. And they ruled us with an iron fist. Even publishing in Ukrainian was prohibited and punishable by prison. Lesia Ukrainka wrote a poem about a carpenter in Jerusalem who was hired by authorities to craft crosses. Those were needed to execute 3 prisoners. The dirt poor carpenter didn't put much effort into those crosses. One in particular was sloppily made from a particularly heavy type of wood. But what can a poor carpenter do? It was cheap, hasty work. The economy was in decline probably. Beggars wouldn't be choosers. And so this carpenter spent his day lamenting about his poverty and hard work, which sapped his energy and strength. And then he sees a crowd marching past his workshop, and people gleefully watch the 3 prisoners carry the crosses as they fall over and over again. And the revelers cheer as soldiers cruelly force them to pick up them and go again. The carpenter watches as one pale-faced prisoner falls down, unable to bear the weight of his cross. And just as soldier is about to whip him again, the carpenter finds himself near the prisoner, helping him, and he says, I made this cross too heavy. It's my job to carry it. He strengthens his spine, his arms find the strength, his eyes burn with determination, as in the poem this carpenter bears Jesus Christ to Golgotha. What gave him strength? What did Ukrainian poetess 120 years ago meant by this apocryphal story? What does it have to do with the fight we Ukrainians have today And why am I sharing this story with you today, on your glorious day? Throughout my life, I found three things that gave me strength. These three things, I think, is what gives strength to Ukrainians, to people that are fighting for a very difficult 15 months. The three things are field, the apocryphal carpenter, in the poem, with courage to defy the Roman guards, to fly in the face of public opinion, and to do the right thing. And this is what I would like to share with you today. The first one is a word you heard a lot from your professors and teachers and from your parents. It's responsibility. Just as the carpenter in that poem took it upon himself to bear the burden, so did Ukrainians raise to the challenge of full-scale invasion. If someone thought that with the sounds of explosions Ukrainians will duck and cover, they'd be wrong. In the last 31 years of the renewed Ukraine independence, we've built our democracy and protected it more than once. We protected the principles of free elections and freedom of speech and freedom in general. It wasn't a perfect democracy by all means. We hadn't finished owning it. We still have to root out a lot of remains of the totalitarian corruption and Soviet legacy. But what we have learned during the 31 years is that it's solely up to the people to protect our freedoms. In 2013, we took to the streets to oppose the corrupt president who wanted to sell out to Russia. In 2014, when Russia attacked us the first time, we took up arms to defend when they have grabbed the Crimea and our southern territories. And in 2022, when we heard the explosions, we stood up to protect our country. Russia's attack on Ukraine wasn't a simple land grab. It was a blatant violation of a rule-based order. It was a genocidal attack aimed to destroy Ukraine's statehood and our freedom-loving people. A free Ukraine has always been a thorn in Russia's side. A strong, successful, democratic, European Ukraine is the worst nightmare Russia had. So we went to fight not just for our land and not just for our national identity. We went to fight for democracy. We could not bear to lose it. We could not bear returning to dictatorship. Our democracy was like the poorly crafted cross, still unwieldy and still rough in places, but it was ours, and we could not bear losing it. Facing such a massive threat was a frightening experience. It truly was. When you see the enemy's tanks on your streets, when you see and hear the enemy steps in your house, when you see your neighbor's son taken by the strangers during the night, when you see missiles hit, destroy hospitals, kindergartens, universities, it's chilling. It's easy to panic. Your lizard brain tells you to hide away, to submit, to give up. It's the easiest thing to do when you're scared, is nothing. And it's also the worst thing to do. And that brings me to the second thing I want to share with you. It's taking action. The poor carpenter spent his time complaining in the poem, feeling like a helpless victim. Yet, as soon as he decided to act, his strength came back. There is a world of difference, and you will learn it in real life, between being thrown into the arena and stepping into the arena. In that split second, when you decide to act, you change from victim to a hero. And you don't even have to win, you just have to take action. When the President Zelensky took out his phone on the first day of the aggression and he said, "We are here, we will not give up. We will be fighting and defend our country," this is what he did. It's for the same reason that on the first day of Russia's invasion, thousands of men lined up to the military recruitment offices. It's for the same reason that my husband, who is with me today, flew back to Ukraine the next day the invasion started, and I'm very proud of him. Students and professors, librarians and scientists, engineers and doctors, entrepreneurs and parliamentarians choose to take action, choose to put a uniform and defend the country, or choose to do anything else to help those who put a uniform. Thousands of people started collecting donations. Thousands of people opened their doors to Ukrainians because we had 12 million who were relocating, fleeing from the war inside Ukraine. Thousands of millions accommodated these people. It's for the same reason that Ukrainian business moves from the uncontrolled territories to western and central Ukraine. It's for the same reasons that programmers started to write codes in bomb shelters. It's for the same reason that so many Americans supported Ukrainians. From helping those in the US, to sending support to those in Ukraine, or even traveling yourself to Ukraine or to Europe to help Ukrainians. From supporting President Biden, both parties in Congress, from doing everything possible to provide us with so much needed and so much valued help. Because, again, this is our joint fight for democracy and for freedom and for international rules everywhere. All these ordinary people committed truly heroic acts in Ukraine and in the US. That moment when you decide to act, when you stop being the ordinary person, this is when you become extraordinary. That's when you excel. So what is the third thing that brings strength for me? It's love. Not love as in heart and flowers, although as a happily married woman I can tell that helps too. But love as the neighbor. Love as in sharing is caring. Love as in when you see someone suffer, you reach out and help. Yes, like that carpenter in the poem, who went to help the exhausted man, beaten and tortured, who was carrying his own cross uphill to the place of the prisoner's death. Like all those people who brought food and water to those who suffer, like all those in Ukraine who baked pastry and served hot tea to families and to soldiers who were liberating their villages, like all those countries that opened their borders and their hearts to Ukrainian refugees, like all those helping with all the programs and give psychological help to the victims of rape, or give new limbs to children affected by the war, like we are doing through our Ukrainian House Unbreakable program. Love is always about taking responsibility for someone. Love is always about taking action, not just words. Love is always about support and help. Never ask yourself, shall I help? Ask yourself, how can I help? And I'm not only talking about Ukraine. I'm talking about everything you do in your life. Love seems like a very simplistic answer, isn't it? But it's not. Everything great ever accomplished in our world was done out of love. Love gives you the strength to perform miracles. Russia set our house on fire, fueled by hatred. We fight out of love to our country, to our people, to our freedom. That's why the free world supports us. And that's why I know Ukraine will prevail. 25 Amen to that. 25 years ago, I came to the United States for the first time. And the first city I ever visited was Boston. I remember how amazed I was to see the city, shaped in history, but also brimming with innovation. I remember walking down the streets, which I drove through today, and I was thinking, this place feels like freedom. All these years later, I am privileged now to represent my country and work in your country, to work with so many incredible people, and to be here in this wonderful, wonderful university today. And as I look at you, and I feel your energy, and I feel your eagerness to start your new chapter in your life, I think of all the opportunities and adventures ahead of you. Wonderful life, and I cannot help thinking, this place and this university still feels like freedom. And if there is one thing I want you to remember from my speech, I ask you to remember this. Freedom is not given. Opportunities are not a given. Democracy is not a given. We all have many battles to fight in, many obstacles to overcome, many challenges to see through, and where we all together will get strength to do it. In our responsibility to take action for what we love. Please choose to do that every time you have to make a choice. And at that moment, you all will become truly extraordinary. The apocryphal Carpenter knew that more than 2,000 years ago. The Ukrainian poet wrote it 120 years ago. It is still true today. God bless you all. Thank you for having me here today, and good luck to you.
The University Chorale will perform Tolite Hostias, composed by Camille Saint-Saëns. Tolite Hostias is the final movement of the Christmas oratorio by Saint-Saëns. Today it is sung by the underclassmen of the chorale as an offering of love and support for all the members of the class of 2023. There now follows the conferral of degrees in course, in the order of the founding of the schools. The dean of each school will present the degree representative to the president for the conferral of the degree.
May I ask the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science in the Robert J. Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences to please rise. May I ask the candidates for the degree of Master of Arts, Master of Science, and Doctor of Philosophy in the Robert J. Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences Graduate School to please rise. Father President, on behalf of the faculty, I am honored to present these candidates who have completed all requirements for graduation. And I hereby certify that they are eligible for the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science, the degree of Master of Arts or Master of Science, and the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.